Entry 67. When they arrived at the town of Win Knight's lot, that is, Jonathan Joestar, Will A. Zeppeli, and that man, Speedwagon, the burns I suffered from the mansion fire had mostly healed. In a way, they were a bit late, as I had yet to completely take that city under my control. I suppose from their perspective, one could say they were only just in time. Either their timing was good, or their luck was good. When we confronted each other, Jonathan said this.
Dio, listen to what I have to say. I am ashamed of this as a gentleman, but I say with great honesty that I, Jonathan Joestar, to settle the score once and for all, Dio, I will kill you!
When I heard this gesture of defiance, much of my heart said, ridiculous. But the small remainder, I feel I must write this here. The small remainder of my heart felt joy. I made that man, Jonathan, who lived always to be a gentleman from his heart, say such a coarse, ungentlemanly thing. I felt accomplished. This was one time when I finally felt like I had accomplished something. However, compared to Jonathan, I was a bit weak. My resolve was a bit lesser than his. Frankly, I didn't want to harm Jonathan. Don't get me wrong, I had to kill him. The Joestar assets and wealth, which I had been trying to usurp, had all burned away. Even if I killed Jonathan now, I couldn't have taken those. But now he was not just an obstacle to wealth. He was a threat. He learned the ways of Hammon and sought to destroy me. I knew full well that I had to kill him. All the same, I did not want to harm Jonathan. Instead, I intended to let my subordinates eliminate him. We were childhood friends, and grew up in the same house like we were brothers. The idea of killing Jonathan or turning him into an undead were not very entertaining to me. So I intended to leave his execution to my subordinates. Compared to that mindset, Jonathan's determination was far better founded. He stated definitively that he had no feelings of guilt towards ending me, Dio. It was quite an impressive thing to say. It's likely that it was actually true. When he said that, at that point, it was not a pure confrontation between justice and evil. Through the power of the stone mask, I, Dio, had become a predator, and mankind was defending itself, as a prey animal does. I may have appeared wicked to them, but I only saw them as food. In that respect, there was no good nor evil at all. It was just a dispute between different organisms. For Jonathan to then shamelessly talk about justice and morals was beyond ridiculous. I saw this person as not even worth opposing, but seeing how emotional he was, I accepted his challenge. Unfortunately, I lost. In the end, it was not really unfortunate, because my head still remained. Entry 68. Pet shop disappeared. I know many animals leave their owner when it's time to die, but I think that is unrelated to pet shop's disappearance. That hawk most likely attacked intruders to the mansion, as per its orders, but instead was killed by the intruder. From what I know about the situation, I believe Pet Shop was defeated by the Fool, Iggy the dog, a battle between two animal stand users. Animals have souls as well. I would have liked to see the image of those souls fighting head to head. I wonder if such a thing would be possible using the bow and arrow. If one pierced with the arrow every animal one encountered. There would be a large risk involved in giving stands to animals with low intelligence. Depending on what ability they obtain, who knows what could happen. It's possible a large biohazard could develop. I will set that idea aside for now. It is now likely that the Joestars have discovered my location. Well, Joseph Joestar possesses Hermit Purple, just as I do. So he would eventually have been able to reach this place through his spiritual photography power. It was only a matter of time. Once again, if only for the purpose of persuading myself, I write that I, Dio, will neither run nor hide. I will meet my enemy in this mansion, just as I did 100 years ago. Entry 69. Pet shop stand, Horus, controlled ice. It cannot help but remind me of a technique I once used. Vaporization freeze technique. I created this technique to oppose Hamon. It utilized my vampire body and the great control it permitted me. Essentially, by vaporizing the moisture inside my body, I can freeze any other person who touches me. I am still able to use it now, but my body, Jonathan's body, lacks finesse. I cannot control it perfectly. More importantly, the vaporization freeze technique is not very useful in a stand battle. Unlike Pet Shop's ice missiles and such, it cannot freeze an enemy's stand. Therefore, much like the Hamon techniques, it would be correct to call it a technique of the past. Now that I have acquired the world, Hamon itself is no longer a threat. Similarly, stand users that fight with their spirits, their souls, are no longer threatened by my vaporization freeze technique, nor my... I did not name this technique. Rather, it was named by a Hamon user, the Space Ripper Stingy Eyes technique. I do not mind the past. What's past is past. What truly matters is the future. Heaven. Eventually, even my stand, the world, will become a thing of the past. Soon, my century-long fated connection with the Joestar family will also reside in the past. I will make it so. It must be so. Noriaki Kakyoin's injured eyes are now fully healed, and he has rejoined the Joestars, I have heard. What incredible timing. Is this gravity as well? Gravity between people? I think calling it a connection fits best. Thinking about it now, my connection with Noriaki Kakyoin is similar to the connection between the Joestar family and I, in that they are both bizarre. If I can write in this notebook again tomorrow, I think I will write on that subject, on gravity. And with that, this notebook will be, for the most part, complete. Their forces are Joseph Joestar, Jotaro Kujo, Jean-Pierre Polnareff, Mohammed Avdol, Noriaki Kakyoin, and Iggy, the dog. My forces are first me, Dio, Vanilla Ice, Kenny G, Terrence T. Darby, and I suppose I should mention the zombie, Nukesaku. I am already at a loss in terms of numbers. I am repeating myself, but in war, numbers are the most crucial element. That being said, if I think carefully about it, I, Dio, have the body of Jonathan Joestar and the head and brain of Dio. And further, 2 people's worth of a soul. I have 2 stands, which is extraordinary. In that case, one could say we are equal in numbers, 6 versus 6. And with that mere consolation, I will end today's entry. Jonathan's body should really be their ally, after all. Entry 70. It was Dyer, wasn't it? The name of the Hamon warrior who stabbed my right eye back then. I used my vaporization freeze technique to freeze and break him, leaving him as just a head, yet he still ran Hamon through a rose he had in his mouth and shot that rose into my right eye. If it were not for that man's attack, I do not think I would have lost to Jonathan afterwards. If I was in perfect condition, had I lacked that blind spot in my vision, I cannot say I am absolutely certain, but I believe I would have overpowered Jonathan, so great was the difference in our strength. I'm not resentful. I don't think if it hadn't been for that Dyer, and so on. No, I am writing an account of the unshakable fact that Jonathan had a comrade called Dyer. When they arrived in Win Knight's lot, there were only 3 of them, Yet when they reached me, there were several more Hamon warriors with them. Like how Noriaki Kakyoin arrived in time, those Hamon warriors arrived in time. I fully believe that such good timing arises from the gravity between people. I think when I first met Pucci, I talked with him about such a thing. Do you believe in gravity? That there might be a reason why you tripped over me? Is the thing we call meetings not gravity? I do not know what sort of impression you have of me, but I am traveling, seeking meetings. Why do people meet? That is the theme of life, heaven's theme. After that, Pucci met with some very difficult times due to that meeting. He lost his little brother and little sister in the worst way imaginable. It was then that he gained his rare stand ability, White Snake. One could say that if it were not for that tragedy, he could not have obtained that stand. I understand his feelings. Had I not met Jonathan, had I not been taken in by the Joestar family, then I would most likely not have a life like this, because I would never have found the stone mask, nor the bow and arrow, nor Jonathan Joestar. Above anything else, even the stone mask, I have confidence that knowing him is what turned me into this person, and how I came to be something more than a person. And if it weren't for me, I think the Joestar family would have collapsed anyhow. Had he not met me, Jonathan would not have grown as a human the way he did. His life would likely have ended with him remaining forever a spoiled brat. He would have inherited George Joestar's fortune, become an archaeologist or some such thing, and slovenly spent his fortune. That is what I think. For me, a person that cannot help but look towards the future, the act of looking back at the past does not have much meaning. But when I do look back, everything seems like it was inevitable, like the pieces of an incomprehensibly complex puzzle assembling. With this hindsight, I cannot see the past as anything but the result of people being drawn together. Fellow stand users are drawn to one another, and fellow humans are drawn to one another as well, and as a result of being drawn together, Jonathan and I even became one body. Yes, that is why gravity is important. The most important keyword to attain heaven. I believe that the final piece of the puzzle will be to control gravity. Gravity and time are intimately connected. Then, if I want to further control time, I must control gravity. But how? It seems as difficult as controlling meetings. Can one even control meetings? Can one control fated connections? If not, can I be prepared for that outcome? This connection, which I have dragged with me for a century, is drawing closer to me at every moment. Entry 71. They have appeared. The Joestar group has finally, without missing a single person, arrived at my mansion. Iggy's forepaw is injured. As expected from a stray dog like him, it does not seem to hinder him in battle. My foes have reached their destination without missing a single person. In contrast, I have, as of now, if you count Jean-Pierre Polnareff and Noriaki Kakyoin, lost 25 excellent stand users. Among them, many could have been the 36 sinners I seek, so I have lost them twice. Matters of life are not comparable using simple addition and subtraction. But no matter how one tries to justify it, I cannot deny that I feel my efforts have been disproportionately unfruitful. Just how far do those people intend to go to save one woman? Or do they perhaps think that the lives of villains are cheap compared to a holy woman? I intend to sacrifice 36 souls as the foundation for the path to heaven. They, however, will gladly trample over at least 25 souls just to save a daughter or a mother. I wonder what they intend to do after that. I most likely won't have a chance to ask them such a question. According to a report from Nukesaku, the younger Darby brother has separated them into two groups. He challenges the group of Joseph Joestar, Jotaro Kujo, and Noriaki Kakyoin in the basement alone. He is as confident as ever. Hopefully that will not come back to bite him. After all, that man is more spiritually fragile than his older brother. As he can read minds, he lacks toughness. Weakness of spirit is linked to weakness of one's stand, as well as weakness of preparedness. All of this happened in the afternoon, so I am a bit tired. I'm going to take a nap. Hopefully everything will be resolved by the time I awaken. However, I am not optimistic. I must prepare myself as well. Prepare for the future.